Extraordinarily bleak jobs numbers from December have just come out. We see the first big dip in job creation since last spring. Not only a dip, we went backwards as hiring stalled and COVID cases surged.
That's right. Industries across the country are suffering very heavy losses. Restaurants down 372,000 jobs. Entertainment down 92,000. Private education, government, hotel staff all taking major hits as well. Democratic strategist and council member at large from Montgomery County, Maryland, Will Jawando, and White House reporter for Politico, Gabby Orr. They're here to discuss those numbers. It's great to see you guys. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Morning. Will, let me start with you since you're literally a local official. How are you having to deal with much of this and just looking towards the future about what needs to be done? As I understand it, given the high concentration of job loss in restaurant and hospitality, much of this has to do with COVID restrictions than with native job loss. But that doesn't mean that many of these people are, it's still terrible. They're going to be kicked on unemployment and so much more. Just your general reaction and thinking about what needs to be done in the next couple months.
Sure. Well, obviously, we never want to see people going on the unemployment rolls. I am happy that at least when they do it, we will have some of that temporary boost that was passed at the last minute at the end of the year. Obviously, like the stock market, I think we're optimistic as state and local elected officials. I certainly am. Now that we have control of the Senate and the White House and the House, that a very large stimulus, whatever you want to call it, package will be forthcoming, hopefully soon. And that'll include the state and local local money that was left out last time. And we, again, as I've discussed on the show before, that's really important. We've given over $50 million locally, most of which was CARES money to support people who have been laid off, to support businesses to reopen, to get them the equipment they need, to help with rental assistance, a whole range of things. And so that's going to be critical money and support. And I think knowing that's on the horizon, this is an unfortunate dip, but we knew it was going to come because we've taken those restrictions for health reasons. The vaccine is being distributed. We're starting to roll that out. That pace is picking up. So I think while it's, we're not happy about it, there are good signs on the horizon, assuming we take the steps we need to take both federally and at the state and local level.
Yeah.
And Gabby, this is the first time that we've seen an actual job loss since the early months of the pandemic, I think since April. What does this mean in terms of the landscape that the Biden administration is walking into?
Well, look, I think if you're a member of Joe Biden's team right now and you're looking at the labor market that he's about to inherit, you've got to be pretty terrified and come to the realization that this is going to be the top concern for the Biden administration beginning on day one. And the big question for the Biden administration is whether they will continue to amplify the position that a lot of Democratic leaders at the state level have adopted, which is to impose restrictions on businesses in order to curb the spread of the virus. Objectively speaking, if you look at the states that face the most restrictive measures right now, they are blue states like California and New York, and not weighing in on the efficacy of those restrictions, but just taking a look at those states, they're the ones that have seen significant losses in their labor markets. They've seen people laid off at record rates. Some of the numbers in this report, I think there was a 20% decline in hospitality industry jobs,
Yes.
which is just remarkable in the span of 1 month. It's something that the Biden administration really has to be asking themselves about and weighing the costs of continuing to push for restrictions like these, given the economic consequences of them.
Gabby, let me also ask you this, because I know you're going to be covering this extensively. How do you expect for the Republican Party in the minority in House and Senate to come after this? Is it going to be all about lockdowns and about deficits and opposing more public assistance? Where will the fault lines be? How do you expect that to go whenever we have a new Senate which is run by Chuck Schumer?
Great question. I think there's been an obvious split in the Republican conference that we've seen emerge just in the past couple of months over, stimulus money and what that means for the deficit, but also whether states should be scaling back some of the restrictions that they've imposed on places like gyms and restaurants and hotels that have restaurants attached to them. This is going to be a big moment for the Republican Party to decide whether they want to get on board with, third round of stimulus money for these businesses, for these industries, and for the American people, or if they're going to kind of return to that deficit hawk posture and keep their focus on the restrictions that a lot of states are imposing. I can't say one way or another. I think it's going to be a big theme to watch for in the Republican conference as we move into February and the beginning days of the Biden administration.
Well, and Will, the fact of the matter is, look, lockdown or no lockdown or whatever, like things are not going back to normal. Restaurants are not reopening until we get this pandemic under control. And we do have those tools now that we have vaccines authorized. But as you sort of alluded to, the initial rollout has been pretty disastrous and extraordinarily slow. As a local elected official, just walk us through, like, what's the role of the state, the locality, the federal government? How is this all getting coordinated? And what do you see as some of the key hurdles to get the vaccine distributed and out so that we can return to some sense of normalcy?
Well, you bring up a great point. You know, in the midst of the attack on our democracy this week, we also had the highest rates of COVID and hospital capacities going as the virus is raging on, and it kind of got pushed. You never thought, what a point in American history when that could be the second story. But, I think you heard Dr. Fauci, my constituents, say this time and time again. We have to get the capacity and the money to the state and local elected officials so that they can get it out to set up, especially as we get to wide distribution. Because right now, today, even if we had the doses that we needed, the infrastructure to start getting shots in arms for the general public is not there. So we're going to need to build that up over the next several months. We are making our way through our 1A population, our healthcare workers and others, and we'll make it through that list. But that it's not going as fast as it needs to, but we're going to need more public health infrastructure capacity, partnering with the private sector to get that out. And we have it here. It has to be set up. It takes some time to do. And so I think that's going to be a big focus. And in the meantime, we're going to need this support for businesses, for renters, for all these folks who are trying to enter back into the economy once it's safe to do so. And that's going to be the balance, making sure we get this stimulus money in so that we can set up the public infrastructure to get the vaccines out the way we need to. And the last thing I'll say to the point that was made, I really hope Republicans in the Senate and Congress work with us on this because people need it. And the idea that you're going to go deficit hawk, I know some people might have that temptation. We got to get through this crisis.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, guys, stick with us. We're going to be back with Team Rising right after this.